Woodturning with Tim is made possible by these fine sponsors.
The American Beauty Tim uses was made by Robust Tools. All our lathes have a 7-year warranty. Our tool rests feature a hardened rod on top. Lots of sizes to fit your lathe. Robust, because the making matters.
Thompson Lathe Tools. Welcome to a new level of professional wood-turning tools. Made by a woodturner, for woodturners. Today in woodturning, we're going to make a really cool project. We're going to use this piece of hickory to make a beautiful southwest shaped vessel. But we're going to take it one step further. We're going to do some cool stuff to it. This is called Lichtenberg pyrography. Pyrography? It's one of those words. I hope I got that right. But anyway, we are literally going to shock the crap out of this piece of wood and burn all this beautiful detail in here. When the process happens, it's fire, smoke, it's really spectacular. It is one of the coolest things around. It also can kill you. That's why we're going to go to a pro when we do this and not do it ourselves. But you got to admit, it is a beautiful looking piece of art once you get done with this. And it looks like branches and little, like a tree in the winter almost. My wife said it looked like Brussels sprouts that had overgrown and gone to seed. But anyway, it is a really cool addition you can do to your wood. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this big old chunk of hickory and put it on the lathe and start rounding out our blank. Now we're going to take our blank of wood here, and I'm going to take a 2-prong center to mount this because 2 prongs digs in deeper into green wood than a 4-prong, and that gives me a much better bite. So I'll take our mallet, just whack that in there really good. Kind of holds itself once you get it where you want it. So we're going to, whoops, I gotta reach over here first. There we go. Slide this in. And then bring this up. You can see I already X'd the wood, so I know pretty much where the center is. That way it guarantees that I'll be spinning on center and not waste a lot of wood when I'm roughing this out. So this piece of wood was, well, I'll tell you, you'll understand why I show you. This is sitting this way in the tree. So this is up and down. So the grain is running this way. So as opposed to a bowl blank, we are doing a spindle turning. So the grain's running this way right now. So we can use a roughing gouge to rough this out as opposed to having to use a bowl gouge. So I'm going to turn this, make sure it's not touching, and we'll get our roughing gouge and rough this out. So we're going to turn the lathe on as slowly as possible and bring up our speed. Something this big you want to take your time with. Now we're going to get a little shake, and you can go past that shake and then it evens out. So you can go a little faster than you think you can. Now one thing I've done that's important is this tool rest is hanging that way of the wood, and this side of the tool rest is hanging that way of the wood. You don't want to have this lined up right on the edge because you'll be cutting along and you'll drop off. So it's really important that when you start your roughing here, you're on tool rest and you'll work your way all the way across, and you still have tool rest remaining. So see, nice and secure there. So this will take a little bit of work to get rounded out, but in a minute we're going to be making some great shavings. Now I would advise, when you work with something this big, you probably want to wear a face mask because you don't know if the wood is going to have any splits or checks in it. And early on, if something's going to go wrong, that's when it's going to happen. Because if there's a split in the wood, it might be weak and the piece of wood could break in half. This piece of hickory that I got was from a friend, and the tree had been down for several years. And when he cut the wood, I'm going to stop this to move my tool rest closer. when he cut the wood, he didn't seal the ends. So there were cracks in this wood already, so I had to cut a lot of wood away on the bandsaw. But anyway, see, I've moved the tool rest closer now, so my tool is not hanging over as much. When you start hanging over a lot is when you get into trouble. The more it hangs over, the more leverage the wood has on you. And you can see this is looking pretty good and pretty solid. And the reason I don't wear a face mask during the show very often is because it's really hard to hear me. And also, you can't see my pretty face. Now we're making fun shavings, so we are rounded out. And that looks pretty good. I just want to check, see if there's any checks or cracks in the wood. And it's looking really nice. This is beautiful wood. It's almost a shame we're going to burn the crap out of it in a little bit, but that's going to be so much fun. I want to grab my parting tool though, because we need to make a tenon on this end because we're going to hold this in the chuck. And we're going to put this in probably the largest set of chuck jaws I have. So I'm going to part down like so. And I have a pair of calipers already set for the proper diameter of my chuck jaws. And so they're pretty big, you can tell. As big as my head. So anyway, we'll get this in here. I'm going to rest the tenon. I'm going to rest the calipers on here. Oh my gosh, I'm getting good. I nailed it right off the bat. Let's just do one more cut and I'll show you how this works. So we'll come in and you kind of do this with one hand. You ride the calipers on top of the wood there. And you part down, and then when the calipers go across, you've got your diameter right. So, now that I have my diameter right, I'm going to clean this up just a little bit. We're going to grab my favorite little special tool, and that again is my tenon tool, which has an angle on it. Now normally I cut from the other side, but if you turn this around and tilt it down like so, tilt the handle down, you can go ahead and make the tenon on this side also. I just want to bevel that in a little bit. There we go. So now we got the perfect tenon, and we're going to start shaping this to get our vase shape before we take this between centers. Now we're ready to make the shape of the vase, and you can see it's very traditional. And it starts high, it has a nice shoulder on it, curves down all the way to the bottom. The curve up here is about 2/3 of the way, and then we have this lip up here which is about 2/3 of the width of the piece, and then on the bottom it's about 1/3 the width. You can also, by the way, see this is cracked. In a perfect world, when I would turn this, I would turn it green all the way down, put it in a brown paper bag, and then dry it for 2 or 3 months before we did anything to it. But in this case, I wanted to go ahead and get this done, so we rushed it over to the guy we're going to meet in a little bit to have the pyrography done on here. And same with this piece of wood, it's probably going to crack too. The best way to avoid cracking, in addition to drying it in a bag, is to make sure that you turn the walls equally thin all the way from top to bottom. And I'll show you how we do that in a second with a hollowing tool. So we can pick the speed up here a little bit, and it's really going nicely. We're going to start working on the top part here and start working in to make the neck. And I'm using a 1/2 inch shallow detail spindle gouge. A nice sharp one. You can see how beautifully it cuts. And I'm just setting the tool, rocking my body back, and then leaning forward into the cut. And you just want to take this off a bit at a time. It's like sneaking up on a bead too. Everything in wood turning basically is a bead. So there's a lot of sneaking in wood turning. All I'm doing is working my way back to where I can establish the shoulder, or basically I want to establish this shape right here. So I'm just working my way back, I guess from that angle. There I'm working my way back like this so I can make this shape right here, and then that's going to determine where everything is. So once I find out where that shape is on here, then I can start making all the details. So this is starting to look about right. I want to take off some extra wood here. There was a little bit of cracking in this blank, although it's going to crack anyway because I won't have time to dry it. But I'm going to come away from the end just a bit to minimize that as much as I can. Nice long sweeping curve. That looks good. So my neck is going to be about there. Here's my shoulder. So I can come back here now and start really roughing away the wood quickly. Whoops. You got to keep the bevel in contact at all times. If you dip your arm or something like that, it pops off and it jumps off the wood and it'll bump into that edge. That's called getting in a hurry. And I should know better than anybody not to do that. So anyway, you can see I'm just moving my body in one motion, making this move. And all I want is a nice flowing shape. So how do you get a flowing shape? Well, you have to also flow with the shape. Another thing is I'm not making any straight lines. These are all subtle curves all the way through this. So come here. There we go. Now we're making the curve down. You can see how the shavings just fly off this tool because it's nice and sharp. Now if you start taking too much of a cut, back up. Start to cut over and take less. You can come back and reestablish then and finish the cut that way. This is getting to be pretty good shape. I'm going to mess with it a little bit more and then we'll start working on the neck of the vessel. Okay, you can see we have the shape just right. So I'm going to work on the neck now. And like I said, I want to make the mouth, the neck, about 2/3 of the width of the widest part of the piece here. So I'm just going to take my parting tool and remove some excess wood. Let the tool ride the bevel on the wood. And it cuts down. I want to make the lip probably about 1/4 of an inch, just because I like that shape. So we're coming in here like so. I don't want to make this a really narrow mouth because we're not into showing off how to hollow right now. We're going to just make a nice wide mouth shape. And actually that's what is traditional with southwestern pottery, is a wide mouth on the vessels. So you can see I'm just sneaking in on the cut. I'm going to blend in my shoulder right here. I'm going to roll the tool like that. Whoops. And see, I caught it. The very top tip right there, I rolled it too much, caught the wood and it bounced across. So that probably gives us a little design modification, probably scratch the wood a bit. But what I want to do, and what I meant to do, is bring this in and turn it like so. Now it's flat, now it's not cutting. I want to come back and slice in here and make the undercut. So there, now I've made the first half of a bead by doing that. And I can come over here now and roll the top of the bead. Now you can take the tool on its side like this and feather out the lip right here. So that looks pretty nice. What we're going to do is remove a little bit more wood here to make my life easier. And I've got to show you one thing. Get this down here. I'm going to sand this next, and I'm not going to bother you with that because that's just boring. But when you do a vessel like this, if you sand it now, it's a lot easier to sand it on the lathe than to sand it by hand after it's dried. But Brian can show this easier. I've left this pretty thick right here because I need all this structure and support when I hollow, because there's a lot of pressure back and forth in here. If you draw your eye through here, probably the bottom of the vessel is going to be about right here. So we're not wasting as much wood as it looks like. But by leaving this nice and thick here, when we hollow, we have all the support that we need. Okay, there we got it mounted in the chuck with the big old jaws holding it really well, and you can just tell by the sound it's holding it beautifully. So what we're going to do is hollow this out. Well, the easiest way to do hollowing is to drill out the center first. So I have a Forstner bit on an extender mandrel on a Jacobs chuck. So basically a drill bit holder. And so the cool thing is when I hold this up here, right here almost seems to be my perfect depth marker. So that's how I'm going to know when I'm deep enough on this. It's going to take a minute to drill out, but it's going to be fun. So we're going to slide this in, and I'm going to slide it up to where it's just about touching. Turn that down. Going to bring my start and stop here, turn it down lower because I don't want a high speed when I get this going. So we'll start her up. Oops, wrong button, that's the stop. You think I, no button. Oh, I'm standing on my emergency stop. There we go. It's been a long day already. So I'm going to pick the speed up a little bit. There we go. We don't want to go too fast when we're drilling because it can bind up with all the shavings that you get. So this is an aggressive Forstner bit. It has some saw teeth on it, so I like it a lot for cutting. And you can see how it just blows into there, and you can see all the little shavings that come off. So it self-ejects, but after a while it's going to stop self-ejecting, and that means we're going to have to stop. See, it's not ejecting now. we're gonna have to stop and clear out all the shavings. And you're familiar with me, I used to leave the lathe running when I would do that, and the noise was incredibly bad. But so now I've learned to turn it off. But you can see we're coming back out and look at the compression on all those shavings in there. So there's a lot of wood in there that you're removing. You can even see steam coming off of it because it's building up heat. So we'll take this, we're gonna slide our tailstock in now so we don't have to advance the quill over here anymore. So you can see the quill is back, so we have a lot of reach left now. So we'll turn it back on and just start feeding it in. And once the wood starts to come back to the edge, we know we're packed again. There we go. We're gonna hit stop. I want to slide this back. And my extender came loose from my Forstner bit. Give me a minute and I'll get that worked out, and then maybe we'll move on to the hollowing. So how are we gonna hollow this? Well, there are a lot of hollowing systems out there, but we are gonna use probably what is the most compact, dead simplest hollowing system on the market. Matter of fact, it's like it so much, I've been using it for so many years, I'm not only a member, I am now the owner of the company. Stan Townsend, the guy who invented this thing, made me a deal I could not refuse. So guess what? You want one of these, give me a call. But this is called the elbow tool, and it's the original of the articulating arm hollowing systems. And all you do is you put it here on your quill like so, right? So that's simple. You unarticulate it, bring it to here, and you just rock this till it feels flat, and then back over here, you just go clamp, and it's on there. Now, we want to cut with something, so we need a tool, right? Well, this accepts all sizes of boring bars, and it comes with its own boring bar, but you can put in the ones you already own with adapters or 3/4 inch like this, and it fits right inside. Now I need to find, there it is, I got my little Allen wrench. You just take this and simply slide it in. One thing about when you're orienting this is down on this end, make sure that you have this perfectly flat, because if you're using a scraper, you want it to be flat. You don't want it tilted back. You can tilt it down a little bit for a shear cut, but flat is the best. And so it just takes 2 Allen screws here to tighten it on. And you don't have to tighten them very tight at all. I was really amazed how well these hold. So now what you do is you bring your tool rest like so. Let me back this off just a bit. There we go. And you see how the arm uncoils? So it gives you a lot of flexibility. Okay, I'm gonna lower this until this point is dead center on the wood. So the whole idea is you want to be cutting as close to center as you can. Now, I'm going to bring the tool rest closer so I have a little more support. And if you notice this odd thing sitting on top, this is a laser system. It used to be you'd have to use calipers all the time to check your thickness all the way through. Well, the cool thing is with the laser system, you turn the laser on, you got a red dot, right? Well, you position that red dot from the tip of the tool, so now when this red dot falls off the edge of the wood, I know I have that thickness of wall on the vessel. So it's an easy way to hollow and dead simple. So anyway, let me start this up and I'll show you how it works. We're going to turn this on about like so. And again, it's fingertip control. And in hollowing, you never want to hurry. You just take your time. You're moving the wood out a little bit at a time. So we're going to bring the tip up here. And see how it cuts. And then we'll get in a little bit deeper. Now you can see the laser hitting the wood, right? And you can see why drilling that hole in the center helps a lot, because we're not working right on the center of the wood. But look how beautifully that cuts. I've got fingertip control. I can do anything I want with it. But the whole idea is you work yourself in a little bit at a time. You make the wall the thickness you want as you go back, and keep working your way down. You can come back later and use a round tip scraper, and that will smooth out the inside for those of you who are really anal and want the insides to look pretty too. But I just go by feel. I'm feeling the tip, I drop off the edge, I pull it across. I go back, I feel the tip, I drop off the edge, I pull across. And it's just a simple movement over and over and over. And this is a high-speed steel bit, and you simply just take it to your grinder and sharpen it like you would a scraper, so it puts a little burr on there. You lose the burr pretty quickly, but this is sharp enough and hard enough that it cuts into this wood beautifully for quite a while. Some maybe have to sharpen this one time during this whole process, if that. So I go back in, find that hole, figure out where I am. So I'm going to work my way in a little bit deeper, and then we'll show you how the laser pointer really pays off. A lot of shavings in here. Now I want to just show you this. You can see how the laser works really good. You can see our wall thickness now. We're getting pretty close to where we want to be. Matter of fact, I'm just going to take a couple more passes, and then all we have to do is part this off here. And then we're going to have fun because we're going to take this and do some pyrography. We're going to burn it. Now we're ready to meet the man who's going to turn this into this, and that man is Morgan. And Morgan, we came to you because this is kind of a tricky thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little tricky. It's a little dangerous.
And what do you call it exactly? I call it Lichtenberg pyrography, but there's other terms for this, right?
Basically just Lichtenberg fractal burning.
Okay, because this winds up looking like fractals, I guess?
Yeah, it's a sort of fractal.
So you do a lot of burning, and I see some big pieces back here. So what is all this about?
Well, these are pieces that we've been doing as customs. Basically, we create an outline and a vectoring program, then we put it on there. And
so you're able to draw with it? I see the skull. I mean, that's pretty cool, because I thought this was just random.
Well, the fractal by definition is actually random. These are kind of a technique that we've learned to do outlines.
So you can actually kind of teach or tell the electricity where to go?
Yeah, in a manner of speaking.
In a manner of speaking. That's really cool. So, I mean, these are big forms and stuff, and you work with flat wood, so was working with round wood a bit of a challenge?
Not particularly. The live wood actually really helped with that.
Because it has a little moisture in it still?
Yeah, has a little bit of moisture, and the saturation really helps the absorption.
And I was impressed, too, because everything's distinct in this. You did a really good job of spreading things out. I've seen a couple of these where there's just a couple lines on this, and others where it's almost burned to death. Yeah. And I really like the spacing you did on that. What sort of thought goes into that?
Well, with that, it's really just all about the saturation of the wood and how you hold the arcing utensil, and that kind of allows you to get more control over the direction in which it's burning.
So who's the mad scientist?
This is William Koshat.
Is he your partner?
Yeah, he's my business partner, and he does most of the resin working and stuff for us.
Okay, now he would be talking, but we're cheap. We only have 2 mics, so he's going to be quiet the whole time.
Yeah, and the mask probably doesn't help.
Yeah, it probably doesn't. And you're doing some really cool stuff here. You're also putting resin. These are just test pieces, obviously.
Yeah, these are all just little test pieces we've done.
And some of this stuff glows in the dark, and that's what he's mixing up over there is some resin. But look at this. You guys are even trying to get fiber optics into these?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, with ours, we're just going to burn it today, but I like the extra stuff you can do to this.
Yeah, we've really been thinking about some of the possibilities as far as manipulating the designs.
So when you mix the resin up, you got to get the right dosage, right?
Yeah.
But also, how do you keep this stuff from running out of the channels?
Well, it takes a lot of squeegee work.
Yeah. And do you also put foil, or like this is, I was looking at this, and where is it? You do, what is that, adhesive aluminum, like they use for ductwork?
Exactly.
Okay, so you put that on the edges so it won't run out.
Yeah, there's the little open parts on the edges. We just kind of keep that in there, and so it's easier to smooth out, and we can make it perfectly even.
So it's not a tedious process, but it takes a little time, right?
Oh, it takes quite a lot of time.
Oh, it does. So he pours it in there, and then he just levels it off, and is that it?
Well, after that, we just kind of have to keep leveling it off. It takes quite a little bit of time, but one thing we also do is use the blowtorch, and that eliminates all the bubbles.
So wait a minute, you're working with electricity and fire. I like this. This is a pretty cool place.
Oh, it's fun.
So how do you do the blowtorch? What does that do? It takes the bubbles out, you said?
Yeah, it kind of breaks the surface tension and allows the bubbles to move freely.
So this is where you do the fun stuff, but the fun stuff, we got to make sure we tell people that it is dangerous, right?
Yeah, we're using 15,000 volts here, so we got a lot of possibility to hurt yourself. We've made sure to put a couple safety precautions in place, like safety goggles and rubber gloves to help keep the electricity from hitting you. We got rubber mats here and rubber mats on the floor, and a fire extinguisher.
So you're ready in case something happens.
Oh yeah.
So in reality, if you do this wrong, and you're by yourself, you could kill yourself.
Hypothetically, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Possible.
But you always have your partner here. Somebody's here with you whenever you do this, so you have help. Somebody can unplug it. The other thing is now with the setup you have, you can still get a shock, right?
Yes, but with the rubber gloves and not being grounded, we can basically eliminate that.
So you got to know your high school electricity rules. Well, what do you do now? How do you get this going? Do you have to soak it with water, right?
Yeah, the first thing we do is we soak it with a mixture of sodium bicarbonate, which is just baking soda, and water, and a certain amount of saturation, and then basically that's about it. We're good to go.
Okay, let's see it happen. So you have to have both probes touching for it to start burning, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then, wow, that's really cool. So it just slowly crawls across.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea why it picks the directions it picks?
Well, it has to do with the level of saturation in any given direction, because electricity always wants to go toward the path of least resistance.
So does it follow the grain of the wood sometimes? Or
yeah, it also does that because you know, the different sections through the wood saturate the sodium bicarbonate differently, which, you know, makes it favor one spot because that's, again, the path of least resistance.
Did you have to modify your approach as far as how you hold the tools when it came to the round objects?
Not particularly, actually.
It's really interesting. It's like its own little light show in there. You can see the red glow inside, so that's obviously really hot.
Oh yeah.
And then the little sparkles. It's just mesmerizing to watch.
Yeah, it's quite fun.
So how long would it take you to do this vessel? How long would it take you to do the last one?
This one right here would probably take me about 30 minutes to have it completely finished.
So this looks a little bit different than the one we have here, but it turns out different every time, right?
Yeah, each fractal pattern is extremely unique.
Okay, and even though it looks really dark and black there, you do a scrubbing process to clean off the carbon, right? Yeah,
a little bit of a finishing process to kind of reveal the true shapes of the arcs.
And then it starts looking like this, and you guys finish with what? What do you put on your wood?
Usually a wood stain or like a polyurethane.
And that pops out the grain of the wood and makes it look really good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, I appreciate you having us over here, Morgan. It was really cool. And so until the next time on Wood Turning, keep turning.
And keep burning.
The American Beauty Tim uses was made by Robust Tools. All our lathes have a 7-year warranty. Our tool wrists feature a hardened rod on top. Lots of sizes to fit your lathe. Robust, because the making matters.
Thompson Lathe Tools. Welcome to a new level of professional wood turning tools. Made by a wood turner for wood turners.